Hello, everyone. This is Andrea Clements with the Community Foundation. We're going to go ahead and get started here in just a couple of minutes once everybody gets into the webinar. Hello, for those of you who are just joining us, we're going to wait another minute here and let more people join the webinar, and then we will get started. All right, it is 7 p.m. We will go ahead and get started with the webinar as a couple more people are joining. First of all, thank you so much for participating in the scholarship application introduction webinar. My name is Andrea Clements. I am the Director of Scholarships at the Community Foundation in Findlay, Ohio. And Jenna Freed is also on the webinar with us tonight. Jenna is our communications director, and she's going to be assisting with the Q&A and some other portions, putting some links in the Q&A portion as well. So tonight's agenda, we are going to focus this webinar on graduating high school seniors who are applying through the Universal Scholarship application. If you are joining us and you are a current college student or a graduate student, that's okay. You can learn some about the application process. Just know that it's going to focus more on graduating high school seniors. I'm going to give a brief overview of our scholarship program at the Community Foundation. We will show you how to create a login to our scholarship portal. And then I'm going to highlight some important areas of the Universal Scholarship application that we want students and applicants to pay close attention to as you are working on your application. So a few housekeeping items. We are going to be using the Q&A function in today's session. The chat is shut off. So if you go up in the top, there's a Q&A. You can go ahead and submit your questions as we go, and we will pause periodically to address those questions. We've left some spaces in the presentation, but also if Jenna sees one that's relevant to the moment, she might interrupt and have us answer it at that time. And this webinar is going to be recorded, and it's going to be available on our scholarship resources page, along with some tutorials and other information for your benefit as you're filling out the application. So just a little bit about scholarships at the Community Foundation. This is our 31st year of awarding scholarships in Hancock County. Over the life of our scholarship program, we have awarded over $7 million of scholarships. And specifically in 2025, we awarded 276 scholarships that totaled over $425,000. Of those scholarships, 86% were awarded to students who graduated from a Hancock County, Ohio high school. So either graduating high school seniors who were awarded a scholarship for the first time, or current college students who are applying for renewals or are getting a new scholarship for the first time. And we do also have some scholarships for graduate students who have graduated from a Hancock County high school. We have over 150 scholarship funds at the Community Foundation. And all of those funds, for the most part, are in the Universal Scholarship application. And we're going to get into what that means as part of this webinar, the Universal application. So our scholarships, those 150 scholarship funds, are for students of all backgrounds and students that are going into all types of schools. So if you are on this webinar and you or your student is planning to go to a trade school, so that would be a school that would maybe be a certificate school or a school for welding or cosmetology, culinary arts, anything like that. We do have scholarships for trade schools. We have scholarships for students going to 2-year and 4-year schools. And we also, like I said, have scholarships going to students that are going to get their master's and their graduate level degrees as well. So we have a whole bunch of different scholarships, and the criteria vary. Not only does the criteria of the type of school vary, but also what a student's GPA needs to be in order to qualify, whether or not the scholarships require financial need as part of the evaluation process. Some scholarships are specific to certain majors. So if you are, for instance, going into nursing, we have some scholarships that are specific for those students going into nursing. And then we have other scholarships that are not major specific in any way. So basically, our donors set up the scholarship with criteria that they would like that fits within our application, and then we award the scholarship. So there is a scholarship here for you, lots of them out there. Just some basic information about the universal application process. It is a 2-step universal application. So the application is open now, and it's open through February 4th of 2026. So that's approximately 2 full months that the application is open. And again, it's a 2-step application. So in the first step, you're going to be answering universal questions. You'll request 1 letter of recommendation. You'll write 1 essay. And then you will submit that first step of your application. And in the background, you will automatically be matched to those 150 scholarships based on the answers that you give in step 1. And we'll get into that so that you can see the details and why it's so important to be specific and detailed in your application, step 1. So you submit, and then what happens is when you qualify for specific scholarships, some of those you will not need to do anything else. Other scholarships, you have step 2 that you need to take care of as well. And the step 2 could be providing an additional scholarship specific essay. It could be providing FAFSA information if you decide that you'd like to be considered for our need-based scholarships. You could also need to request an additional letter of recommendation or a few other things that are required for specific scholarships. So what is important to know is that students must submit everything or request everything in step 1 and step 2 in order to be considered for a scholarship. So if all you do is step 1, the only scholarships that you'll qualify for are those that do not require a step 2, and approximately 80 to 85 of our scholarships do require step 2. We'll get into how you can see whether or not you have a second step. Then what happens is we have over 250 evaluators that are volunteers within our community that volunteer in March and April to review scholarships. Those scholarships are scored. We figure out who they are going to be presented to. And then in May of 2026, we will be presenting in person the scholarships at senior recognition ceremonies throughout Hancock County. So that is when graduating high school seniors will know whether or not they have received a scholarship, is if they are invited to or are presented a scholarship at their recognition ceremony. And then the students that were awarded scholarships will accept their scholarship online after that in-person presentation. And then the monies for the scholarship are sent directly to the college or university that the student is attending. And those monies will go in June or July. So again, just a basic outline of the universal application process and timeline. I'm going to switch some screens here, which will give us a little bit of time to see if there is anything in the Q&A, Jenna.
We did have one question come in about student eligibility and what students can apply. So kind of a two-part question. Do you have to live in Hancock County or attend a Hancock County high school? And can homeschool students apply?
Okay. So we have scholarships for students that are outside of Hancock County or are not attending a Hancock County high school. As you can see from the beginning, 86% of our scholarships are going to those Hancock County graduates. So that means that 14% are not. So there are some that are outside of a Hancock County school. What I will have you do, whoever is asking this question, is look on our website because we have a list of scholarships available. Jenna may even be able to put that list in the chat, a link to it, so that you can see what's available and then you'll be able to take a look. Email me specifically if you have questions. And then the second one is about homeschool students. And yes, homeschool students are able to apply. Specifically, it would be beneficial if you live in Hancock County and you are a homeschool student. And if you have questions about how to answer the high school question or your county of residence or the county of your high school, when you get into your application, just let me know. But yes, homeschool students are eligible. Okay.
That's all for now.
We will go ahead and move on to showing you how to create a username for our scholarship online system. So the easiest way to find the online system over and over again is to use our website. So if you go to www.community-foundation.com, then in the upper right-hand corner under the search bar, you'll click Portal Access. And then scroll down and you'll click My Scholarship Portal. And what that does is it brings up the logon page for our scholarship portal. And if you already have a login, so if you are a current college student and you applied when you were in high school, just put your login information in and click log on. But for today's purposes, we are going to go ahead and create a new account. So you'll click Create New Account. And then you'll want to fill in all of the information that has an asterisk beside it. So we're going to go ahead and do first name, last name. Email address is your username, and as it says in red, I would highly suggest that you do not use your high school email address for this portion. This is the email address that we will be contacting you if there's any questions with payment. That's usually in June or July, and that will be after your high school email address is shut off. And also, if you receive a renewable scholarship, I'll be reaching out to you the spring of your freshman year of college, and that high school email address will be shut off. So go ahead and please use a personal email address that you check regularly. And then if you put your mobile number in there in the live site, I'm in a practice site right now, but in the live site, if you put your mobile number in there, there's a note that says that that's giving me permission to text reminders as well. So you're just filling in all of this information, and then you'll go ahead and hit next. You create your own password. I do not have access to your password. And so if you create it, go ahead and write it down so that you remember. And then hit create account. If at any moment you do not remember your password, you can go ahead and go on that login page and put your email address in that you used, and then you can request a password reset from that page. You'll receive this page here asking you to confirm your email address. And so what this is doing is just making sure that these emails that are coming from administrator@grantinterface.com are actually being delivered to your email, not to your spam or anything like that. So you would go into that email address, you would double check that you received the confirmation email, and then you would go ahead and say, I've received it, and continue. So what that's going to do is it brings you into the actual scholarship site where you can go ahead and apply, manage your dashboard, and manage all of your scholarships. It should bring you directly to the apply page the first time that you log in. If for some reason it does not, then it would land you on the home page, which is totally fine. All you need to do is click on apply. And the scholarship application that graduating high school seniors in Hancock County are looking for is the Universal Scholarship Application 2026. So if you are in the live site, the site that actually has the scholarship application right now, not the sandbox site, practice site that I'm in, you're going to see not only the Universal Scholarship Application 2026, you're going to see approximately 10 additional scholarships that are listed. For graduating high school seniors in Hancock County, you do not want to apply to any of the other scholarships. It will be a waste of your time, and we don't want you to waste your time. So we just want you to apply to the Universal Scholarship Application 2026. Before we get into the application, though, let me just give you a little bit of a tour of your dashboard. So again, this is the apply portion of your dashboard. You'll see when the application closes. So you can see that this one closes on February 4th, 2026. If you are not quite ready to hit apply and get started on an application, you can use this preview button. What it's going to do is pull up a PDF that lists all of the questions that are a part of the application without actually creating a draft application yet. And if you can't see all of this information here, you can do see more, and then it'll go ahead and give you all of that information. For those of you who were asking for information about whether or not you should apply, if you're in Hancock County or outside of Hancock County, Jenna likely put a link to this document as well. But if you click here, where it says click here, then it's going to pull up a list of all of the scholarships that are a part of the universal application, and some very basic criteria, and that will give you an idea of whether or not it will be worth your time to apply through our universal application if you're outside of Hancock County. So the other thing I want to show you here on this applicant dashboard, I'm going to go to the home page. So if you click this home button up here, it's going to take you to your home page. Right now, Seth's student has not applied to anything. So his entire dashboard, his home page is completely blank. I do want to show you there's some different columns assigned to you: action needed and no action, and then completed and historical. Later on, as we get into an application, I will be able to show you exactly what happens with these assigned to you, action needed, and no action columns. So stay tuned for that. But what we will go ahead and do is just click apply, and I'm going to go ahead and start this application. And let's say I get started on this application and all of a sudden I realize, you know what, I actually don't have time to do this at this moment. That is okay. All you need to do is hit Save Application at the bottom. It's going to save it. And then when you go back to your home page, now you can see that you have an application. The Universal Scholarship application is assigned to you, and there's some action that's needed on it as well. And so then if you wanted to, you could go ahead and hit continue. And then that brings you right back into the application itself. So I'm actually going to go ahead and stop right there because I need to log in as a different pretend student and just see if we have any additional questions, Jenna.
Someone asked for a reminder of the application open and close dates. So the application is currently open and will close on February 4th. Is that correct, Andrea?
Yes, that's correct.
And that is the only question right now.
Okay. Very good. So I went ahead and did some work ahead of this webinar, so you didn't need to watch me answer every single question in the application. And Allison applicant has started their application, and we are going to use their application to just dig into and highlight some very specific portions of the Universal Scholarship application that are important to pay attention to. So I'm going to go ahead and hit continue here. And what you will notice is that Allison applicant has already started to fill in her information all the way through this application. And one important portion of the application for you to know is that there is question branching that is included. So if I were to switch my answer to this question to yes, it actually would take all of the questions afterwards away. But if I hit no, then it opens up all of the questions afterwards. So that's what question branching is. So as you move through an application, you will notice that if you say that you participated in sports in high school, for instance, then multiple other questions and areas are going to open up and branch out based on that answer. So the first area that I want to talk about within the application that's important to pay attention to is the demographic information area. And as you scroll down here just a little bit, I want to talk about student classification. So if you are listening to this and you do not have a high school diploma yet, you are considered a graduating high school senior. We have received some questions because I know a lot of high school students are taking college classes either through CCP, well, all be through CCP, but they're taking college classes, which is getting them college credit. And so sometimes students will get a little bit confused and they will put current college student here. For our purposes, if you have not received your high school diploma yet, you are a graduating high school senior. So definitely check that. The other portion that I want to talk about is this question here. Would you like to be considered for scholarships that require detailed financial information? So at the Community Foundation, we have scholarships that the primary consideration for the scholarship is financial need. We have scholarships that consider financial need as a part of the whole, but it's not the primary consideration. And then we have scholarships, a third bucket, that are merit-based only, which means that no financial information is taken into consideration for those scholarships. If you answer yes to this question, that yes, you would like to be considered for scholarships that require detailed financial information, you could qualify for all three of those buckets: the financial need required, the financial need considered, and the no financial need. If you say no to this question, you will only be considered for scholarships that do not take financial need into consideration, only that third bucket that I just talked about. So again, here is a link to the listing of all of our scholarships. It pulls up an Excel sheet essentially. And in the left-hand column of that Excel sheet, there's a column that says FAFSA at the top. And then there are X's in some of the spots and there are not X's in other spots. If there is an X in that column, that means that that scholarship either requires or considers financial need. If there is no X, that means that financial need is not taken into consideration. So just make your choice for this question with all of that knowledge. And if you have any questions for me about that, go ahead and shoot me an email and we can talk about it that way. The next thing that I would like to talk about is the transcript. And so I'm going to go ahead and find the portion of the application that is the high school transcript, which is right here. So the way that the Community Foundation has you all submit your transcript is actually by requesting that your school counselor upload that transcript on your behalf. That might be a little bit different than the way that it works for colleges right now. I think a lot of times people will send you out to Parchment and then you have a login and then you send it directly to the college or university. For us and for our purposes, what we are doing in this area is we are asking you to put your school counselor's email address in right here. And we have some wording, so you could actually just go ahead and, copy and paste all of this right here. I'm applying for scholarships through the Community Foundation, asking you to please submit my transcript. The deadline is 2 weeks after my application, and put all of that information in. And then what you would do is you would hit compose email over here. And then you're going to go ahead and put transcript. You're going to put the body of the email right here, however you want to word it, whether you copied and pasted it or not. And then you're going to hit send. And what that does, you can see here, it tells you that the email was sent. And what that does is it sends 2 emails to your school counselor. It sends the email that you just created that says, hey, I'm asking you to please submit my transcript. And then it sends a second email from the system that has a link that allows them to actually go ahead and upload that transcript. So it is important for you to get that email address correct. If the email address is incorrect, nobody knows that they need to upload it for you. And then I will just call out for Findlay High School students, because Findlay High School, you can use fcs.org or you can use at findlaycityschools.org. We are asking you to please use at findlaycityschools.org as the ending email ending for your counselor so that they have everything on one dashboard. So that's the transcript request portion of everything. Another area that I wanted to call out is the clubs and extracurricular kind of area here. So this is just a good example of question branching that I wanted to show you. So in the involvements, I'm going to go ahead and hit no for all of these. And when I hit no, the next question that's available to me is the FAFSA submission summary question. If I want to go ahead and add clubs and extracurricular activities to my application, and I choose yes, then it branches out and it adds this question, clubs, extracurricular activities, which is the question that allows you to actually enter those activities right here that you've been a part of. The same is true for religious activities. So now this religious activities question is here as well and allows you to put information in. And then the same would be true for volunteer and community service. So again, that's just a very basic way to show you how that question branching works. It does matter what you say in your questions so that the correct questions then branch after that as well. Take just a moment here. I know I'm just kind of going through some highlights of the application. Jenna, are there any questions that would be helpful to address right now?
Sure. 2 quick ones. First question is, does selecting Findlay City Schools as your school include Millstream students?
Okay, that's a great question. So the school that you want to choose is the school from whom you will receive your diploma. So multiple students from multiple schools attend Millstream. And there is an area later in the application that you will be able to say, I have attended I did attend or am attending Millstream. But the actual high school that you want to choose is the high school that you're going to be receiving your diploma from. So if you are going to be receiving a diploma from Findlay City Schools, you would choose Findlay City Schools in that drop down. For someone that asked about homeschool, you would choose other in the high school drop down and then put homeschool in there's a spot that you can put homeschool after that. So hopefully that addresses that question.
Great. Next is there a place to put information about jobs my student has had?
Yes, absolutely. So there is an entire section about employment information. And so it starts out with whether or not they've worked in high school, and you can put some information in there as well. And then it does ask if they're currently employed. So I chose no originally. This is a branched question. If I choose yes, then it's going to ask you to put current employment information in there as well.
Okay. And last question for now. This is a dashboard question. Does no action mean that my submission is done or completed? I am not seeing a completed tab currently.
Yes, we will get into the no action, those columns here in just a moment. You guys will not see any completed or historical information because, well, if you've never applied for scholarships with us before, you will not see any completed or historical information in a column. You will only see the action needed, the 3 columns that we went over first. But once I get this pretend application submitted, it will make a lot more sense and we'll go through that whole dashboard again.
Great. That's all for now.
Okay, so I'm going to keep just working through some of these areas of the application just to point them out to you. Most of the application is very basic information that you're filling in. You're filling in your activities, you're filling in the sports that you played or activities, extracurriculars that you did, you're putting your GPA in, lots of just questions about your high school life and your high school career. What I'm pointing out are the kind of additional information or the things that take a little bit more steps to complete, just to make sure that you guys know about these parts of the application. So the first portion here that I want to show you, if you remember at the top of the application, the question, would you like to be considered for scholarships that take financial information into consideration? When you say yes to that, these 2 areas, the FAFSA submission, excuse me, 3 areas, the FAFSA submission summary, the estimated costs of college, and family financial assistance questions are going to open up and be required as part of your application. So this FAFSA submission summary is just basic information about the fact that you will need to submit your FAFSA submission summary and provide your student aid index in step 2 of the application. So there is a link there to studentaid.gov. That is where you will go to actually complete your FAFSA. And then once the FAFSA is completed, that is where you will be able to go to download the full FAFSA submission summary. We will need it in a PDF form, and it is about, it depends, but it's usually 10 to 15 pages long. We do need the full submission summary. And at the first page of that submission summary, your student aid index is going to be listed. So if you haven't done it already, and you are wanting to be considered for our financial needs scholarships, go ahead and go to studentaid.gov, get your FAFSA submitted so that you can have the FAFSA submission summary and student aid index ready in step 2. And then also estimated costs of college are here. One of the main questions that we get is, I don't know where I'm going yet. And as of February 4th, I don't know if I will know my chosen school. That is okay. In this section, we say go ahead and use your chosen school or your first choice school. So if you have maybe 3, 4, 5 schools that you're still kind of looking at, but you have one that's risen to the top as your first choice, that's the one that we want you to go ahead and put the information in here on. And then the other portion of this is financial assistance from your family. So again, we understand the FAFSA is not the end all be all as far as financial need is concerned. And so we do want to gather just a little bit more information as well so that we can understand a more full picture of your family's financial what your family's financial picture is at the moment. Knowing that the FAFSA is the year prior information, meaning it's from 2024 taxes, a lot of things happen in a year and a half or 2 years or could happen financially. So you would just let us know if you are financing your own education or if you're getting some help and some information about that. And then you can add some additional comments here as well that would just help our evaluators understand your financial situation a little bit more. Okay, I'm going to move on to the post-secondary information section. Again, a lot of questions come in this area. Which college or university do you plan to attend? It is what we are asking for is your top 3. So you would list your top, second, and third choice. And then as you scroll down here, the question is, I plan to attend or am attending one of the following colleges or universities. If you do not know for sure whether or not you are attending one of these, but it's one of your top 3, go ahead and choose that university in this menu here. So that the reason this question is here is because we have specific scholarships that are for students that are going to BGSU or Miami of Ohio or the University of Findlay. So if they are in your top 3, and let's say Ohio Northern and BGSU are 2 of your top 3, go ahead and choose both of these. When it comes to the time for us to award the scholarship, we will award the scholarship assuming that you are going to one of these schools. If you've chosen 2, you may get a follow-up email from me asking for confirmation which college you're planning to go to. If we award a scholarship to you and we realize that you're not going to either of these schools, what we will do is we will go ahead and award it to the alternate student. So I know that some of you haven't made your decisions yet. That's okay. Just go ahead and choose the ones that you think you might be attending right there. And then the next part, I'm going to do some specific requirements. This section of the scholarship application is towards the end. And it is very important for you to read through every one of these checkboxes very carefully. These checkboxes are for specific scholarships that if you check it, then you could potentially qualify for that scholarship. Excuse me. And if you don't check it, then you may not qualify for that scholarship. So one example here, we have the Findlay Moose 698 scholarship. So if you are the child, grandchild, legal stepchild, or legal step-grandchild of a Findlay Moose 698 member, you would want to make sure that that is checked. Because what that does is it opens up a branched question right here, and that allows you to put the name of the person who is the member and how they are related to you in there, and that's what helps you qualify for that scholarship. So again, if you attend Findlay City Schools and you attended Lincoln Elementary School, you want to make sure that that is actually checked as well, because then that would potentially qualify you for the Lincoln Elementary School scholarship. And then one of the last areas we're going to look at here within step 1, so this is all step 1 of the application. I tell students when I go into school that this part of your application, step 1, is going to take you at least an hour to fill out all of the information, make sure that you have everything requested from the people that you need to, and to write your essay. So we haven't even gotten to the essay yet, but we'll get to that in a second. But this is all step one. So, universal application letter of recommendation. Our universal application requires that you request one letter of recommendation, and that one letter of recommendation is going to be with all of your scholarships that you qualify for through the Community Foundation. So if you qualify for 10 scholarships, excuse me, then this one letter of recommendation is going to go with all 10 of those scholarships. Jenna, as an evaluator, can you speak just a moment to the importance of recommendation letters?
Sure. So I've been at the Community Foundation for 10 years and have evaluated scholarships for all 10 of those years now. And something that I will say is students are all very involved and very qualified. And students um, oftentimes their applications will come down to their essays and their letters of recommendation for us to get an idea of who the student really is. So we're thinking, when you're thinking about doing your letters of recommendation, think about people who know you well, people like your coaches, a teacher that you've had or have particularly like connected with, maybe an employer, or if you are in a religious community, someone from your community who would be able to speak to who you really are. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that I dropped in the Q&A a cheat sheet of information needed to apply. Consider this like a checklist of things that you might want to have on hand or gather before you start your application or before you get into the nitty-gritty of the application. That way you have an idea of, okay, I need to gather my employer's information. I need to gather my extracurriculars information. This will be really helpful as you prepare for your application.
Thank you very much. So while Jenna was talking, I went ahead and requested a letter of recommendation. So you put the email address in of your recommender, you hit compose email, and then you go ahead and move forward with sending them that email as well. I would highly recommend that you, in your notes app on your phone or somewhere, write down who you requested this letter of recommendation from, because in step 2, you will likely need to request additional letters of recommendation. You do not want to request another letter of recommendation from this person. And finally, within the application, I just want to take a look at the essay. This essay is a universal application essay. It is going to go along with all of your scholarships that you qualify for through the Community Foundation. So the essay is describe your goals for the future, how you plan to achieve your goals, and why you believe you merit assistance from the scholarship committee. It is 2,000 characters, so it's not very long, but as Jenna said, it is very important, and it is included in all of your applications that all of the scholarships that you qualify for. All right, we're going to submit this application. Oh, there's a few things that are not there. So what happens when you try to submit it is if you have areas that you did not fill out in the application, it is going to tell you exactly what you need to do. So I'm going to go ahead and search for minor. I must not have put that in there. And then there were a couple other things that showed up too. And we're going to try again.
Sometimes it takes a little bit for the application to be processed just because there's a lot of information being collected. So I wanted to take a second to address a couple of the comments or a couple of the questions, I'm sorry, that have come in since then. First, I did correct the link to the list of scholarships. I apologize. That was the information needed to apply. Another question was, can a student list multiple employers? Absolutely. We do encourage students to list them, and there's a little sample that we put in there about how we ask them to do that. And then a question about, what if I'm a homeschool student that will receive a diploma from an online school? Andrea mentioned earlier that you will select other from that school dropdown. As long as you reside in Hancock County, you are eligible for some of our scholarships. So please include that information. And when will awards be announced and how will I be notified? Andrea mentioned at the beginning of the webinar that you will be invited to your school's end of year banquet. It's either a scholarship banquet or an awards banquet. They're called a couple different things, but you will be notified at your school's banquet.
Thanks, Jenna.
Sure thing. I think that's it for now.
Okay. So what happens here is that once you submit, then you're going to get a list of the scholarships that you are eligible for based on your answers to step 1. I obviously went overboard and I qualified for a lot of scholarships on purpose. But then when you scroll down, these are the scholarships that are going to need supplemental information, which is the step 2 information. This is the only time that you're going to see this specific screen. So if you want to, you could screenshot this information, but it is all going to be on your homepage as well. So I'm going to go ahead and hit continue. When you do that, the first scholarship that you need to submit additional information for is going to pop up. So this student qualified for the Benjamin R.L. Lunn Merit Scholarship. And so this is the first one that's popping up. And it's asking for the FAFSA submission summary. So I'm going to go ahead and click Upload File. We're going to upload that. I'm going to enter my student aid index, which would be located on your FAFSA submission summary. It's also asking for an additional essay. And so you would take the time to write the essay. Excuse me for coughing here. And then you'll go ahead and submit that application. And then it's going to pull up the next one that you have required information in step 2. Now you'll notice that this pulled up the FAFSA submission summary again. However, you'll notice that the document that I uploaded the first time is already there, and the student aid index that I entered is already there. There are no additional requirements. There's no other essay or anything like that. So you do not have to do anything else here except submit the application. And it's going to keep going. And if you remember that list at the bottom that said that these are the ones that are going to require more information, there were probably 20 that were listed down there. And you could sit here and you could just keep going and keep going and keep going if you have time to do that. If you don't have time to do that, then you can go ahead and go to your home screen. And now you'll start to see where these columns become important on your home screen. So you can see that there's still nothing in completed or historical. Just be certain that you have all of the arrows completely open as well to see all of the information. But what you can see here is that you have an assigned to you column. The assigned to you column is the column that says the student needs to take action on these scholarships because there's additional items that are required. So this is only the student needs to do something here. So if you want to go ahead and start working on the Jerry Sisser and Barb Lockard Memorial Scholarship, then you would go ahead and click Start. It's going to take you into the area that you need to fill out the additional information. And as you scroll down, or as I scroll down, what I can see is that the only thing that's required here is another letter of recommendation. So this is called the second general letter of recommendation. All of these scholarships require this one letter of recommendation. So if you qualified for 5 of the scholarships that are listed here, you're only going to request this letter of recommendation one time, and it will be uploaded one time, and it will go ahead and apply for all of those scholarships that you've qualified for. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. Jenna, congratulations. You get to be my recommender. And then you hit send. You can see that the email was sent right here. And then all you need to do is submit the application. So if you remember, that one was the Jerry Sisser and Barb Lockard Memorial. It is no longer sitting and assigned to you because the student doesn't need to do anything anymore. But what does still need to happen is that letter of recommendation still needs to be submitted. So there is still some action that's needed on the scholarship. This action needed column is both action needed by the student, which is listed here as well, and action needed by your third-party people. So the people submitting your transcript or your letters of recommendation. So how can you tell if it is a letter of recommendation that's outstanding? This little icon here is how you can tell. So you can see if you hover over it, it says third party. And so in this application, there are 2 things that you requested from somebody else. It's the universal application. So I happen to know that you requested your letter of recommendation and you requested your transcript. It looks like one of those 2 items has been submitted. See, third party 1 out of 2, and also one of the people is colored in red and the other is not. It's just a clear person. Once all of those items have been submitted, then this is going to move into your no action column and you are going to be good to go. So that's kind of how that works. This is student only. So you haven't requested something or submitted something if it's you're assigned to you. The action needed column is all of those that are in the assigned to you column and those that you're still waiting on transcripts or letters of recommendation. And then the no action column are those that are completely done. Either they didn't require anything additional. So like the Findlay First Edition Scholarship didn't require anything in step 2. So it's just sitting there. It's ready to be evaluated right now. Or once you get through all of these and people have submitted letters of recommendation, then they pop over into this no action column. So that's a lot of information. Are there questions about that portion of everything?
I have a couple questions. We'll see if more come in about that portion specifically. Someone did ask for the essay prompt, and I dropped that in. That is also included in the information needed to apply PDF that I linked and is pinned at the top of the Q&A. And someone asked how a homeschool student is notified if they were awarded a scholarship.
Sure. Thank you for dropping that in the Q&A, Jenna. So for homeschool students, what will happen is you will receive an email that will let you know that you have received the scholarship, and you will be able to, it'll give you instructions on how to log in and accept the scholarship. And that typically for you all is going to come sometime in mid-May or early June. So that's when I would be looking for it, that email specifically. Any other questions yet?
Not right now.
Okay. So one of the things that I do want to show you here, let me see if I can find this. Just a second. So many scholarships that I qualified for. I'm looking for the Schleter City. Okay. So when you go into this scholarship application, and we're in step 2 right now, we know it's still, we need it in step 2 because it's sitting in that action needed column. So we know there's something that the student has to do. I just want to show you, again, I already showed you the FAFSA submission summary where this document is already there. The SAI is already there because I put that in for another scholarship already that I submitted. But I want to show you this second general letter of recommendation. Remember how I said that multiple scholarships will use that letter of recommendation? Well, we already did it for the Jerry Sisser and Barb Lockard Memorial Scholarship, but the John A. Schleter City Scholarship also requires this. As you scroll down, you can see that this has already been requested. So the email address is in there, and then it tells you right here that the email was sent today, but no response has been submitted. You do not need to do anything else other than hit submit. If you delete this email address, you put a different person's email address in and you hit compose email and do that whole thing again, you will lock out the first person that was in there that you requested the letter from. So I get emails a lot of times from recommenders that say, I don't know, it's weird. I got an email from a student asking to upload a recommendation, but now when I click on that link, I can't do anything with it. It doesn't take me anywhere. Well, that is because the student put an email address in, composed the email, requested the letter of recommendation, and then came back here, deleted this email out, redid it, and sent it to somebody else. So it locked the first person out. So if you get in here and you see an email address that's already here, you see that the email has been sent, and then all you need to do is hit submit application. And then I'm going to go back to this home screen. And then you can see that the Schleter City Scholarship now is sitting over here. It is no longer in this assigned to you because the student has done everything they need to do. It's sitting here because I'm going to hover if I can, because there is still a letter of recommendation that hasn't been submitted. Once that letter of recommendation is submitted, it'll pop over into the no action needed column. So just kind of wanted to reiterate that. So at this time, are there any additional questions that we can answer about the scholarship application process or what you just saw within the system?
Yep, we have a couple. First, what if there is an error in my submission? Can I edit? And I assume this means after you've submitted, not just when it's in draft form.
Right. So when it is in draft form and you haven't submitted yet, you can change any answers that you want to. Once you have submitted step 1 of the application, if there's an error in your application, please reach out to me via email and we can work through that because as an administrator, I would likely be the one that would have to fix that, or I would have to set your application back to draft status so that you can go in and fix it. And depending on the circumstance will depend on which one of those things will happen. Any other questions?
Yes, another one. Will new scholarships be added and what would be required to apply for those? There are new scholarships added at the foundation every year, but not currently. Andrea, will you add a little bit?
Absolutely. So we have a deadline for new scholarships for each awarding year. So what you see in the system and what you can qualify for right now are the only scholarships you'll be able to qualify for that will be awarded in 2026. And then as we have new scholarships that are added, because we do open new scholarships monthly at the foundation, those scholarships then get added for the 2027 cycle for scholarships or the 2028 cycle. So what you see in the system right now, they are the scholarships that are going to be awarded in 2026.
Thank you. Another
Absolutely.
question, how are scholarships awarded? Do the checks come to me or go to the school?
Sure, great question. So the checks are sent directly to the school or university, and those checks typically go out at the end of June and they are applied to your student account. So if you are awarded a scholarship, you will go online and fill out an acceptance agreement. You'll use the same scholarship system and log into the same one that you used to apply, and you'll put in your college and university information and you will put your student ID in, and then that is how your college or university knows which account to apply the scholarship to.
Let me see here. What happens if I change schools or majors? That's a good question.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, the scholarships that go for specific schools. So, for instance, if you qualify for and are awarded a scholarship that is for a student that is attending the Ohio State University, and before you start at the Ohio State University, you decide that you are now going to BGSU. That scholarship then would no longer be able to be applied to your account at OSU. We would then bring that scholarship back to the community foundation and it would be awarded to the alternate student who is attending Ohio State University. Um, Similar for majors. So if you say that you're going into nursing, but then before you start school, you decide that you are actually going to go into engineering, well, then if you were awarded scholarships that are specific for nursing, those scholarships would come back to us and we would award them to the alternate student. So there is a level of trust and transparency that the community foundation is putting into that, so that the student actually is contacting us to let us know. And then we also are doing our due diligence to make sure that they're being awarded to the correct universities and for the correct majors. I am going to address a similar question, but maybe not the one that was asked. So we do have scholarships that are renewable. And so you would be awarded the scholarship for the first time as a graduating high school senior. And then there would be the possibility to to apply for renewal for up to 4 more years for some of our scholarships. And some of those scholarships are also major specific. So, for instance, we have a scholarship that is an education major specific scholarship that's renewable for 4 years. And if you receive that scholarship and then you apply for renewal and you tell me that now you are a marketing major instead of an education major, and based on your transcript that you submit, I can see that you would lose that renewal and not be able to renew anymore because the donor does want a student that is going to be an education major. So again, not exactly the question you were asking, but a question that is similar in that same vein.
That is all for now, just in time.
Okay, very good. Well, we are up at 8 o'clock. Thank you so much for participating this evening. Your questions are wonderful and helpful. If you have additional questions, please go ahead and email me. My email is on the screen right now. You can also call me at the Community Foundation. Again, Andrea Clements, Director of Scholarships, and I look forward to hopefully seeing many of you at your awards ceremonies in May and awarding these scholarships. Take care.